Hello there.
Hello, this is my Widebody Veilside MR2. Whenever I got it originally back from the shop, and the car looks amazing. Uh, and this video is going to be why, despite the car looking like this, I had to go ahead and get the whole car repainted. Whenever I first started out with this build, it was my goal to build a car that had the potential to win a show. Now, I know winning a show is hard, and I wouldn't actually expect that to be the requirements, but I wanted the quality of the build to be such that, if I did enter a show, someone could say, hey, I know how you could think that you have a chance. Like, there's a path here. Whenever I got the car back, it wasn't that. But I really didn't care because, in my eyes, the car still looked great. Now, there were a couple things that were off with the car. I'm going to walk through them with you right now. But again, I don't think these issues alone would be enough to warrant the outlay to get the car repainted. So some of these items, if you can see here, there's the doors, right? And the doors kind of aren't flush with the body of the car. They kind of stick out a little bit. On top of that, there's a piece of the car where the fiberglass is kind of chipped off. And you can tell that this occurred before the car was painted because the actual crack is actually painted all the way around. Now, in an ideal world, if I were to add some fiberglass there and make it such that the lines are flush with the car. There was some outgassing, it appears, on the inside front fender liner, some bubbles there, and I mean, that doesn't look too great. There is general panel gap, especially in this area, but if I recall correctly, this was done in order to get around some of the issues that we're seeing with the paint rubbing whenever you're opening and closing the doors. On top of the paint rubbing when opening and closing the doors, the bottom of the doors were kind of rubbing against the fiberglass there, which is relatively unsightly, especially in this bottom corner. You had an issue with the door on the other side, but it wasn't as severe as it was on the driver's side. While I did see these imperfections, I was still happy. I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, I would bomb around in the car, smiling from ear to ear, because the car was still what I wanted, because it looked good enough for me. Yes, if you're a car enthusiast, you'd probably notice some of these issues. If I took the car to a show, they would notice these issues, and they'd see they'd see like nice car, but it isn't up to the quality. But for me, I was all right with it. I was willing to just accept the car as is, and the next thing I was thinking of, okay, let's put a K motor in this thing at some point. But what started to happen is that the car started having adhesion issues. I drive the car around, and I get a lot of rock chips. I know what you guys are thinking. Rock chips are unavoidable. And to a degree, I agree with you. Whenever I had the car originally, in the 3 years I've had my stock body MR2, I had used my paint pen one time. However, with the new Veilside build, what would happen was I thought I was using my pen all the time. And I talked to Chetro about this, and he's like, hey man, like cars like this, they're often not driven. You're out there, you're driving it around, you're enjoying the car, just consider these battle scars. And to a degree, I agreed with them. I mean, look at Ed Bolian and his Mercy. I think he spent about $30,000 painting the car. So I thought to myself, hey, maybe if you want a paint job that looks great and is as resilient as the OEM paint, maybe that's just what you have to pay. But that's just not true, guys. And there are a couple of things that made me realize that I definitely have a problem here with adhesion. So one of the first things, outside of, again, the larger than normal amount of paint chips, was one time I got out my car, and I always usually have a backpack on me, and the buckle of my backpack just gently, I felt, tapped the side of the car. A little reckless, but shouldn't have been anything crazy. And a whole speck of paint just popped off. The other thing, I drove the car down to Louisiana to visit my parents. And as you can see here, like whenever I visit my parents, I park my car outside. And it was about 100 degrees that day. And I come back, and the paint on the passenger side of the car, on the door extension, has split. And there's no using a paint pen on this, right? So pretty much we have this adhesion problems all over the car, right? So what kind of happened was you had a situation when I first got the car back. I felt that, based on everything that was wrong with it, I still enjoyed it, but the car was like at a B minus, I'd say. It was good enough for me. I'm happy with it. But what was wrong with it wasn't worth spending the money to go fix. After all these adhesion issues, I felt like the grade went from a B to an F. Like, I felt that the car went from a car that looks great from a couple steps away, but whenever you get close, looks clapped. And I felt that I spent way too much money to have a clapped car. So that's when I decided that I needed to get the car repainted. I brought the car to Derek, and he felt that there wasn't enough primer used in the car, or that there wasn't any primer used when painting the car the first time. I know Checho primed the car, so maybe it had to do something with the quality of the primer was used. I don't know. But whenever he started taking the car apart, like the paint started coming off like it was a wrap, So there was definitely an adhesion thing going on. And this isn't to knock on Checho. I know he went above and beyond in many measures, making sure that, the area beneath the front bumper and the headlight, was pretty smooth. I mean, he found many pinholes in the Veilside kit. A lot of people think these fiberglass kits come perfect. They don't. They require a lot of treatment. Found and addressed those pinholes. I mean, our boy did a job. But the thing was, for some reason or another, the adhesion issues just didn't work out. I mean, there was just something going on there. He doesn't live in the area anymore. And, I just had to get the car sorted. We're getting a lot of the things sorted, the things with the fitment, the chips in the paint. We're using a primer that will make sure that the adhesion issues are kind of something in the past. There were some issues with the fuel door. We had a solution with that, and that's going to look absolutely great. And then there's the issue with the wing. And the problems with the wing, definitely not Checho's fault. That is something that is Veilside's issue. I mean, the wing is just way too heavy. And that's why when you see a lot of Veilside kits, a lot of them don't have the wing on them because those wings crack a lot. Whenever Derek picked up this wing, he's like, what happened? Did someone fill this with something because this is way too heavy? I'm like, it was heavy from the shop. And he just automatically said, he's like, hey man, you're gonna have to put a gusset or a brace, you're gonna do something with this because this wing is just way too heavy. I mean, what are the ramifications of having to get the car repainted? I know one of the big ramifications is that I originally intended to put a K-Series in this car. And that just isn't gonna happen anymore. I've spent over $20,000 on this car just in paint. And this repaint that I'm doing right now isn't gonna add any value whatsoever to the car. I mean, if I go to sell it, I'm not gonna have to say, hey man, I painted this car twice. It's gonna be like, why do we care? And if I would put a K-Series in the car, I mean, it would cost $16,000, $17,000 because I can't do it. I have to go to a shop to do it. And maybe that adds $5,000 to $10,000 to the right guy. But most likely, I mean, modifying a car isn't an investment. It's a hobby. And I just really couldn't afford to put any more money in this car that I know I will never get back. Even though that extra power would have been great. From a practical standpoint, if I really do want something to bum around in with a little bit more power, it makes more sense to get another car. So, I mean, if it's $17,000 to get a K-Series in it, and I know that I could get an S2K with 50 to 80,000 miles for a good deal, somewhere around $25,000, $26,000, then if I wanted to, I could sell the S2K for around what I bought for, or maybe more. So the big thing is that the K series for the MR2 is off the table. I'm just not going to. I'm just not going to sink any more money into the car. I think the only things that are left, modification-wise, I'm going to do to the MR2 is going to get the door card sorted, and I might get the Veilside seats reupholstered in leather. This video was just give an update on why the car is being repainted, and I'll probably give another video about general advice about how you want to plan your wide body builds in the future. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. That's a wrap. If you liked the video, like, share, and subscribe.